Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Politically Correct Ghana lesson 343. And today being the 11th of December 2025, we want to discuss, or the discussion's title is Reforming the Reform, Secondary Education. Reforming the Reform means that some things have happened, so we have to relook at it. The performance of our secondary school students at the West Africa Examination Council this year, 2025, has been questioning. And it demands that the whole nation sits up, especially the education ministry and its minister should sit up and go through proper analysis and come up with some recommendations for reformation, in the sense that since the current educational system was proposed by the Jobo Committee way back in 1972, and it was implemented on an experimental basis in 1976 thereabout, and rolled out countrywide in 1987, there's not been too many look at the curricula, and not just the curricula, but the whole senior and junior secondary school, or senior secondary school, or senior high school concept properly. So we have to relook at it, and the education minister should look at reforming the reform. All right, what do I mean by that? The numeracy and literacy bit we'll look at, the flexibility of examinations we'll look at, and the course contents we'll look at digital literacy, we'll look at media awareness, we're going to be looking at financial literacy, and then we'll find out where does all this fit in place and which recommendations follows after each observation or weaknesses. The performance that showed up in terms of literacy, this year 2025 was about 30% failure rate. 30% of the students from the senior high schools failed the English exams. That is serious. It's true that English is not our first language. However, if you have 30% failure rate, it means it's an issue for concern. And it just didn't start now. You have observed per data that since Ghana localizes senior high school examination, and the only examination board is West Africa Examination Council, from the year 2021, the performance has been dropping when it comes to numeracy and literacy and all other subjects generally. So then the literacy aspect is something that we have to look at carefully. When we're looking at literacy, we're looking at the oral aspect and then the written aspect. The oral aspect is so clear that it's showing in the adult place of work, where almost all the radio stations are speaking Twi English, or the English, they always have Twi vocabularies as part of its replacement for some English words, which is, well, I don't know whether the Twi English is now going to replace the business language, that's the English language, or we are not fit for the job market. Then it questions us primarily, what is the essence of education? Education, or the essence of education, is to make sure that we solve societal problems, whilst ensuring that it maintains the global trend and training the learners to be what? To acquire future skills. See, education is supposed to solve societal problems while ensuring that it has a global trend, and the trainees must have acquired future skills that will help redeem themselves or save them or improve their own life and then that of the society. All right, so then that's education and the purpose of education. That's a major question. Are we training our children in secondary schools with the global trend in mind, with skills that they can compete globally for the future? I doubt it. That's where we come with digital literacy and oracy. All right, so when we talk of the oracy, we're talking of the Twi English, which is not good. Before it used to be Pidgin English, and now we've moved on to Twi English. You open all the radio stations, the English-speaking ones, they always speak English, and then they bring in Twi sentences and words into it, and you wonder where this is going to. This video is going to be split into two. It's going to be part 1 and part 2. So we are in the part 1 now, because of the time and attention span. You look at it, so the English language that we're teaching, we have to teach it as a foreign language and make sure that our children understand it brilliantly. Now we want to even introduce local languages to explain the English language. I don't have a problem with it, because children can pick 2 or 3 languages at the same time. If we want to do it, let's make sure we get the resources, appropriate resources, to make sure that it hits its core and derives its intention. The other bit is that Per the West Africa Examination Council, they are only supposed, the junior secondary school students are at their terminal exams, or that's the assessment, that's the terminal exams or the final exams at junior high school. They are supposed to write essays about half a page. And I'm wondering, how can a child of about 12 years or 10 years or 13 years be permitted to write half a page of an essay? That's not right. They're supposed to write a page and a half or 2 pages of an essay. That is where they stand out and become competitive. That of the senior high school, they should be writing 2 pages for an essay. See, because they cannot write 2 pages, it is making it problematic. This idea of localizing our West Africa Examination Council for senior high school is itself not good, because it's not standardized. You can say everything you want that is standardized, but it is not standardized. We have to get back to the West African scheme, where we compete with all the other West African countries at the senior high school. Then the other bit is flexibility. Flexibility is not there. We have given, the Constitution has given sole examination body to West Africa Examination Council, which is wrong. We are in a democratic world. We are in a democratic sphere, a liberal world. So then we have to ensure that we have other competitive examinations to compete with WAEC, and that will make WAEC wake up to its responsibilities. Other than that, they would be using archaic course content and all that, because the course content itself, we're going to look at it. So then, can't we have the university set up an examination for senior high school? Public Universities Examination Board can be instituted. Public Universities Examination Board to compete with West Africa Examination Council. In any case, why are we going through all this? Because one of the essence we have to look at the content of education is that when it comes to literacy, the education, the course content itself, the learning objectives, has got problem. It is not challenging enough to see what innovation is about. It does not enable our learners to what? Come up with their own creative thinking. Creative thinking is not there. They are only to do rote learning, and rote learning is not the best because it lacks skill. If the skill is the true poor pass, they will definitely forget. So it's not going to do that job. So then it means that we are actually failing. That's why the 30% failure this year in English language showed up. It should have so clear that we have to relook at it. So root learning should be de-emphasized, but the concept should be, or the skill component of it, competence in what we're doing in the English language, that people must be able to speak the English language, understand what it really means, and not treat English. All right, so that's notwithstanding. That's for the English language. So then we go to the part 2. So let's pause and go to part 2, please.